This is going to be a review for Rollerball, 1975, starring James Caan. So it's based on a dystopian book, directed and produced by Norman Jewison. Basically it revolves around a future world of 2018. So we're a bit past that now, and everything's controlled by corporations. There are no states anymore, no more nations, and this ultra-violent sport known as rollerball is a way to control the masses. And James Caan is this guy named Jonathan, who is like the best at the game and is getting a little too popular for the corporate leaders who control the world. So very interesting movie. I've always heard of this movie. It kind of reminds me of Death Race 2000. In fact, is this a Corman? Okay. I don't know if it, I can't find Corman on the credits, but yeah, it's a great movie. It's very well directed. It has a great look to it and feel. Reminds me of Death Race 2000. Kind of, for some reason, reminds me of A Clockwork Orange. I think it's the music, the look of the movie. It's something very Kubrick about it in some ways, I felt. Definitely A Clockwork Orange I was feeling. Because that's also in a future dystopian society. I mean, very different, but very violent, just like this. So I can see the connection there. I don't know if the director was influenced by Kubrick, but it just kind of felt like it to me. A very entertaining movie. I like how, it's basically, I like the concept, because basically people gave up their freedoms for comfort, and there's a discussion between him and kind of his ex-wife about how people gave up their freedom for comfort, and she's okay with that. She says comfort is freedom, and he says it's not. His idea of a freedom is you can think for yourself, you can read what you want, because in this world, all of the books have been edited, or summarized, as they say, and you have to go to a computer, and then it will tell you what the book says. So you actually can't go read it yourself, figure it out for yourself. I think there's no books anymore. Everything is on a computer, which is one reason why everything shouldn't be on computers. It's good to still have normal books, because they can be edited. So I think this is a good warning to the world that you shouldn't give up your freedom for comfort, that you should be able to think for yourself, and also a warning about the dangers of corporations getting too powerful, which I think are all good messages. So I really like the movie. But definitely Death Race 2000, a very violent world. The game is a way to control the populace. There's like 6 or 7 corporations, and that's it. And also a Demolition Man I was kind of thinking of too. And they talk about the corporate wars. And in that movie, don't they say the fast food wars? It's just kind of a joke, but some of that movie kind of I was thinking about too. Like the way that everything's controlled in that world and everything's censored. And in that world, it's all because of political correctness, but in this world, it's, different. This is all about corporate power, and basically people they don't vote anymore. They have no power. They just let these faceless oligarchs control their entire society, make all their choices for them. But as they say, there's no poverty and everyone's comfortable. So, you don't need freedom. But, yeah, I really like the movie. 1975. James Caan, great actor. One of my favorite actors. Pretty much, I've never seen him give a bad performance. R.I.P. Seems like an awesome guy. Obviously, he's in The Godfather, but definitely check this out if you haven't seen it, because I just thought it was really good, really well directed. The music's really good, and I like how he also he has a gripe against the corporate control, because he had a wife who he loved, but then some corporate leader, I guess, saw his wife or met her and then took her away from him. So they can just take away your wife if they like her. So he already has a gripe in the beginning of the movie. He's already starting to question these things. He starts looking into, well, like history, but he wants to read history books. He wants to know, what happened to the corporate wars, what happened to the nations, and he can't really find out. He's talking to his old manager, and he kind of tells him a little bit, but he warns him, you need to not buck the system too much. He's getting too popular. He's becoming too much of an individual icon, which the corporate leaders don't like. So they want him to retire, which he doesn't want to do. They're basically threatening him, threatening to kill him in the game. He's really, he's a really good leader to the other guys on the team. He actually really cares about them. This is a game where you can be killed or maimed, and then right before, they're like, we want you to retire, and then they're like, their next game's against Tokyo, and in this game there's no rules, and there's no penalties, so it's very brutal. His best friend is this guy named Moon Pie, yeah, and I'm just gonna get into spoilers, but check out the movie if you haven't seen it. I thought it was very good, very entertaining, and his friend Moon Pie gets beat up in the game and is brain dead, and they want to pull the plug, but he won't do it, and he takes him back with him back to the United States or whatever it is now. And then he starts to look into this more. He goes to Geneva, where there's a supercomputer that kind of controls the whole show, and he wants to ask it questions about who are the corporate leaders. He wants to know more, but the computer won't answer him really. And I like the scene with him and his former manager in his house, and they're talking about how they're like, what happened to the city, Indianapolis? And then he's like, oh, Chicago's a food city. And they're like, it just seems like they never explain this though, but maybe, they liquidated the city and killed everyone. So something very shady is going on in the background. And it seems that the corporate world gives out these drugs that are like, he has them in a little box, and he takes these pills sometimes. Maybe they're, like Xanax or something, and he gives it to his girlfriend, and basically, like, he keeps getting these new girlfriends every couple months, They don't want him to be connected to anyone, really, to be in love, to have any real connection to people that you care about, because maybe, you know, all they want you to do is care about the corporate overlords, and to not get too attached to anything. So he lives a very comfortable life because he's, you know, very rich, and he has they give out like privilege cards, and you know, he has a lot of those, so he's able to live in this really nice house. It's a ranch with a bunch of land. He has horses that he rides, but he won't bow down to the system. He won't bend the knee. He won't retire. So then they put him in a game with no rules and no time limit. So basically, everyone in the game is gonna die, or they think, because they're just gonna keep fighting each other until they're dead. And in this game, there's this metal ball that they're trying to get into like a basketball kind of goal. And they're on motors. There's like three, each team has like 3 motorcycles, and you can grab onto the back and travel on them. But of course, James Caan is such a badass that he survives it all, scores the only point. Everyone's chanting Jonathan, and then the movie freeze frames on him and cuts to black. So yeah, I really liked it. It's a classic. It's based on a short story by William Harrison called Rollerball Murder, which first appeared in a September 1973 issue of Esquire. Canadian director William Jewison directed it. Rollerball was a box office success, and critical review were initially mixed, but have warmed somewhat over time. I'd say so. I've always heard this is good. Yeah, Jonathan makes his way to Geneva to access the world's repository of all human knowledge, a central supercomputer known as Zero, only to find its memory corrupted. Right. Afterwards, Jonathan receives it. So, and yeah, its memory's corrupted. They don't remember anything about the 13th century except a few things. So again, another reason to have physical books. Afterwards, Jonathan receives a visit from his former wife, Ella, who was the woman that was stolen by a corporate leader, who has been sent to convince him to retire and make clear that the coming game will be his death. Jonathan realizes his wife's visit was set up by executives and erases a long-cherished movie of the two of them, stating, "I just want you on my side." Jonathan decides that despite the dangers, he will play in the championship game against New York. The final match devolves into a brutal gladiatorial fight. Jonathan is... Yeah, and that's another thing this movie reminds me of is, you know, not just Gladiator, because of that, but like the Roman Empire. They call it bread and circuses. And that's what the gladiatorial games were, and you know, a lot of their games, the Roman Empire had a lot of very violent, brutal sports. Jonathan is soon the only player left on track for Houston, while skater and biker remain in New York. So yeah, its budget was 5 to 6 million, box office 30 million. Jonathan goes to a library where he finds that all books have been digitized and edited to suit the corporations, and are now stored on supercomputers at large protected corporate locations. Jonathan's friend and former coach Cletus, now an energy executive, warns him that the executive committee is afraid of him, though he cannot find out why. Which is because the game is supposed to be about cohesion, and he is standing out and getting too popular, too much of an individual. They don't like that. And as they say, no one's supposed. I think he says like no one's supposed to get that good at this game because basically you're supposed to die. Rollerball soon degrades into senseless violence as the rules are changed to force Jonathan out. The semifinal match between Houston and Tokyo is played with no penalties and limited substitutions in the hope Jonathan will be injured and forced out. The brutality of the match kills several players and leaves Jonathan's best friend teammate Moon Pie in a coma, though Houston wins the game. So yeah, it's an awesome movie. The rollerball game sequences were filmed in the Olympic basketball arena in Munich, West Germany. Munich citizens were invited to filming to serve as spectators of the game. Director Jewison intended this film to be an anti-violence, but audience so loved the action of the game that there actually was talk about forming rollerball leagues in the wake of this film, which horrified him. And they also used for the ball, it's like this big metal, solid metal ball, which you could, beat someone with. There's actually some good action in this movie. I could definitely see some stuntmen being injured in this because they have motorcycles going around and people are beating each other, and I thought it was pretty good. The action. The director said he cast James Caan in the film after seeing him play Brian Piccolo, the real-life Chicago Bears running back in the TV film Brian's Song. Dieter Meyer recalled concerned over finding sufficient extras for the film in order to make the Tokyo look credible. The rollerball game sequences were filmed in the Basketball Hall of the Summer Olympics 1972, now known as the Audi Dome. Kind of funny, now it's known as the Audi Dome Corporation. At West Park in Munich, West Germany. This was the only sports arena in the world with a nearly circular footprint, which the production could take over and redress for shooting. The film takes place in 2018. Contrary to rumors, no one died during the filming of any of the stunts in this film. However, there were some serious injuries, including a few that required hospitalization. Oh wow, look at this. I was right. Director Norman Jewison is quoted as being influenced by Stanley Kubrick's film A Clockwork Orange. Wow, I was completely right. I didn't even see that till now. This is the trivia on IMDb. The pistol that a drunken party guest uses to incinerate pine trees during the big corporate soiree is actually a rugged standard 22 caliber target pistol. The weapon used in the film has an elaborately modified barrel to make it look more futuristic. Yeah, that sequence was interesting because they're all at this party at James Caan's house because that was the night he was supposed to announce his retirement. They shot this documentary about him and he was supposed to do it on there, but he didn't want to. So there's all these people at his house in this party. It's like his ex-girlfriend's there too, but she's with another guy now. And then they all get drunk and he doesn't seem to be really enjoying himself. But then they all just start going outside with this gun, and you like shooting at trees, which then cause them to incinerate. So even more violence, even at a party, people descend into destroying, the natural world. William Harrison wrote the original short story Rollerball Murder, published in 1973. But yeah, I think that's about it though. There is a remake of this, but I hear it's terrible. I haven't seen it. Um, it's directed by the director of Die Hard, so it's a good director, but never seen it. I think LL Cool J's in it, and I've always heard that movie is terrible. So probably just stick to the original. But yeah. If you could do me a favor and smash that like button, that'd be great. It really helps the channel. And I'll see you next time.